My name is Peyton Johnson. Today is August 4th. It is 12 o'clock in the morning and almost time for lunch. This is my final presentation for my summer internship class. I will be discussing multiple different topics today, including our weekly duties and our different jobs that we've performed over the summer. So I work for TxDOT, or the Texas Department of Transportation. The Texas Department of Transportation was formed back in 1917 under the name Texas Highway Department. It wasn't until 1975 that they changed the name to Texas Department of Transportation. So I work in the Brownwood district of the Texas Department of Transportation, and Brownwood is made up of the surrounding 9 counties in kind of north central Texas. The state is broken up in, I believe, 25 different districts. The Abilene district has 13, whereas the Brownwood has 9. I am one of 4 summer hires that are hired each summer for surveys specifically. We have a 3-person crew, 1 crew chief who is a full-time employee, and 2 summer hires. The full-time employees are the only ones allowed to drive company vehicles. Summer hires are not allowed to drive at all. So I'm going to go over our duties for the week and daily duties. And the first one is on Monday mornings we have to inspect the truck. We inspect everything from the transmission fluid to the tire pressure to the horn to the backup lights, all the brake lights, everything up and down the 2 different survey vehicles. Every day we assess each job that we're going on for that day and determine the equipment that we're going to need, whether that be the GPS or the total station. We gather the equipment up, we gather the proper batteries to go with it, we make sure we have our PPE for the day. Our PPE is our personal protection equipment. That includes our steel-toe boots, our vest, and our hard hat at the bare minimum. Everything else is optional. We have shades, gloves, they give us the whole works here. So once we have that stuff together, we'll go and take the truck to go get gas. We will get ice and water in our cooler. It gets hot out there on the black pavement, so we make sure to drink up a lot of water. Then we head out to the job site. So I'm going to discuss several different jobs that we've worked on this summer. The first one is probably the one that I've worked on the most. A couple different projects up and down this job, but I'm going to talk about 2 of them today, and it is the US 377 here in Brownwood. So the drawing that I'm pulling up for you right now is an intersection up at 377 here in Brownwood. It intersects the road that's going east and west, which is 84 and 67. So you can see here we started with point 4034, with 4026, and with 4051. Using those 3 points, I calculated the radius point here by going back to our known point, turning a right angle, and then traveling north on that same bearing. Doing the same thing over here at this point. I turned a right angle, traveled south on this bearing, and then traveled east on this bearing. So that gave us our radius point. Now using our radius point, we want to hold the radius and not the tangent. Tangents, you can hold it, but you have to hold it out to the longest decimal. Otherwise, you've got a higher chance of rounding error. So holding it to the radius, I ran an intersection on Kogo between this point 4026 and 4051, and on this same bearing from this point here. So that gave us this as being our intersect point, our PT, and then I did the same thing using these different bearings over here as this intersect point here, 4027 as our PC. So this put in our whole curve. Now originally this intersection was a circle intersection, and then they came in and put a light in, and they used the same right of way. They didn't want to have to buy any more right of ways, so they calculated this curve, which is a 13-degree 44-minute curve. I used the degree of a 1 degree, the radius of a 1 degree curve, which is 57, 29, 58, and divided that by our degree of curve to give me our radius. And that's how we started off with that. So we used our radius all throughout this point here. Whenever we dropped down to our known point, we went over the radius distance and then up the bearing. Same thing up here. So without that radius, we would have to work this equation a different way. So that is the most recent thing we've done, and so this set our center line of road here, and we also did the same thing going a direction out this way. Those three roads coming in intersecting at that point. So this we established our center lines on all those. Went and found known monuments. We went and found iron rods, dug them up. Everything. We tied this bridge in down here, which this bridge is just about a monument. It's the oldest thing out there. So we used that bridge to calculate the center line of this road. That put in our center line extremely accurately, and then we used iron rods to check that over time. One thing that I have found with surveying work here is that a lot of times our work is so far ahead of any kind of job being put into place that a lot of times the job might get canceled depending on the opposition in the community. And this job that we did a little bit further down the road of the intersection is like that job. Since then, this job has been canceled, but I spent a lot of time putting together a map for the presentation to the community. They had a public hearing, pretty much, public thoughts and stuff. That did not go over very well, but I have already tried to turn the camera to where you can see my computer screen, but it won't pick up the screen. It looks black. So I'm going to do my best to explain this job to you. This job had about a 7-block length to it, but it was going to cost an extreme amount of money. It was going from Baker Street to Austin Avenue which is Main Street of Brownwood. Essentially, this job, if it had continued, they were going to have to saw faces off of the buildings whenever they bought new right-of-way. They were going to expand it a little ways, but like I said, it got canceled. So what we first did was we went out and shot and found as many corner block points as possible, especially originals. We went out to establish the right-of-way, the existing right-of-way. That was our objective. So we went and found about 15 to 18 points that were in this 8-block radius, or 8 blocks up and down this street. But we did find 3 points at one intersection and 3 points at another intersection. So that was the main 3 points that I found that I was able to establish the right-of-way. I knew the right-of-way between those 3 points were 40 foot on one street and 50 foot on the other, and those points were almost exact on. They were within 3/100ths of an inch. So this part of town is not old enough to have plat surveys in the courthouse at the clerk's office, so I had to go to the appraisal district to get block layouts and sizes. So then I took the points that we have, I laid out the 250 by 200 foot block or 250 by 250 depending on which one, and then I put in chain lines all the way around to establish where the block was, and also had to verify that that was the actual length of the block considering the right-of-way of the streets next to it. This job took me a very long time in the office to work on in the computer, and we have now established a right of way, so if this ever comes up again, then we will already have this done and not have to do it again. Some things that helped me from class time out here in the field. One of the things was water boundaries. We were discussing some water boundaries out at a lady's property on one of our roads, and that was a cool transition to see how my legal aspects class did carry over, and I was able to actually have some decent input on that. Then also was this horizontal curve stuff. Um, Horizontal curves I did not find to be very difficult, but it was finally put into action in this job. My third summer, my first 2 summers were mainly field work. This year has been about, I'd say 50-50 of field work to office work. I have a lot more office work to do though right now. So another job, one other job I want to mention is FM 501. It's in San Saba County. This job is a SET job, which is a safety in treatment job on different culverts and corrugated metal pipes up and down this FM road. They want to put concrete around them, put bars. It's a safety thing. So we have had incredible um, difficulty with getting service for our GPS out there. And on some cases, I know we had to go about 1.5 miles to a mile in order to get cell service, in order to set a control point to shoot the total station back. So it's been a huge pain in the butt. We've had one crew working on that solid for the last couple weeks now, and there are upwards of around I want to say 35 culverts. And we also did some topo on some curves. They're going to try to straighten out some curves on that road too. So I wish I could turn around and show it to you on the computer. It's really cool. I've been doing a lot of chain work here in the office that they did not do in the beginning. We had to correct that because it makes it a lot more difficult in the office to do it. The software that we use here is MicroStation, and works very well. Um, my mapping class from Miss Holland has transferred over very nicely into MicroStation. It's been extremely helpful in figuring that out quickly and effectively. Another question is, what are some things I wish I had learned in school? I don't know of anything that is something that like I have no idea about, but I do know that I wish I had paid attention and learned. Well, I did pay attention, but I wish I had learned the more of my legal aspects class in the beginning of the year. Beginning of the year material I struggled with a lot more than the middle and the end of the year. Then I started finding it more easy to learn, and so I wish I had gone back and learned the beginning of that stuff a lot more. So my experience with being an intern has been very good, very beneficial. I would say that I've taken a lot more things to the classroom than I have the other way around, especially in my early years as a freshman and sophomore. I already have been doing some surveying and being out in the field, seeing how those transition, being in my plane measurement classes, already knowing what's going on, already knowing exactly how to do it, has been very nice, very helpful, taking a lot of stress off of just trying to make sure you have good grades. That's been extremely helpful. The guys I work with are great. TxDOT's very safety minded, so I have developed that mentality with a lot of the surveying that I've done, so that nobody gets killed on the side of the road. So my overall experience has been very good, and have been very blessed with the knowledge and the people, the RPLS I work under, Chet Glasscock. He has been very helpful with learning the laws and giving, like, I guess, senior advice on um, things to not do and to watch out for. So this concludes my final presentation. Thank you very much. Have a good day.